Hello and welcome to the Monster Mechanics mini episode. Today we're talking about what monster would make the most interesting society.
And who did this prompt come from?
This prompt was from our Twitter account, which was Grays, who is @_grayist. So thank you, Grays.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's see, what creature would make the most interesting society? Actually, Sparklefish on our Twitter also mentioned gnolls in response to that. And I have a historically well-known love for gnolls.
Mm-hmm.
They would definitely make a very interesting society.
How's that?
Gnolls are based off of real-life hyenas,
Mm-hmm.
who, unlike a lot of other mammalian species, the females of their species are much larger than the males.
Uh-huh.
They tend to be matriarchal, to the point where, and I'm sorry that I have to say this to a somewhat family-friendly audience, the females actually have pseudo-penises that are larger than the males.
Oh, wow.
Which causes a lot of trouble for when they actually give birth. They tend to have a lot of their firstborn babies die.
Uh-huh.
If you actually are interested in a very interesting exploration of this whole idea, look for a comic called Digger by Ursula Vernon.
Okay.
They delve into it and it's a very cool society. I totally recommend it. So yeah, society based off of gnolls would be really interesting to look into.
Well, what you're saying about like the firstborns having a very high mortality rate,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would be like something that like culturally ingrained there, like firstborns being almost like a sacrificial kind of thing.
You and Ursula Vernon had the exact same idea because in Digger they talk about how the firstborn is always like a sacrifice to the gods,
Mm-hmm.
and if they survive, it's a huge deal, which I really love.
Interesting. Yeah.
If you wanted to go the other way on it, maybe not sacrificial, but they might respond to it by thinking that maybe there's something wrong with the firstborns, like that they die because there's something like ingrainedly wrong with that first child, like it's a first try that doesn't come out right.
Interesting.
If one was to survive, instead of being celebrated, you actually might have a society that shunned them if you wanted to go the opposite direction, which would be kind of cool.
Oh, yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Well, what do you think, Zach? What would be a good monster to base a society on?
Well, I was kind of thinking something more along the lines of elementals.
Cool.
Kind of go like the Last Airbender or Legend of Korra route, where you have, these perhaps warring or cooperative nations, each focusing around a particular element.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, with a kind of a stratification where each element kind of cordons themselves off, and you could also apply Pokemon logic to it, where one element trumps another one, which trumps another one, which trumps another one.
Sort of a checks and balances system on a global scale.
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
How would a society like that? We're talking about something where they're deeply ingrained with their elemental nature. Would they mix it all? Like if you had a fire nation that was made up of actual creatures that only could live in fire, and another one that was water where they could only live in water, like would they really only touch right at the edges, or would there be a chance for them? Do you think there'd be a chance for them to actually mingle and like be?
Well, I think there would probably always be like some kind of mix, like some blending of societies.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it would probably largely be what's the word I'm thinking? Isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the if they're living in like a fire environment or a water environment that innately won't mix, but maybe there's like alliances with like the wind nation and the fire nation kind of bolstering each other and whatnot.
That could be kind of cool. You also might have within one elemental group, or like you might have the strident, ultra conservative ones who are like against all mixing between two different elemental sets.
Uh-huh.
And then there might be a separate population of people who are at least willing to like, okay, the fire and the air elementals, like some of them have gotten off and made their own nation together.
Uh-huh.
And by combining their commonalities, they feel like they're stronger, but they're at war. Like some of, the fire elementals amongst that population are shunned by the other fire elementals for their
radical beliefs.
Yeah, exactly. Their non-traditional sins. That could be kind of cool.
It's kind of almost expected that you have like the warring nations of, fire and water or air and earth kind of set up. But I kind of like the idea that maybe like there's more of a cooperative nature there than you would tend to expect. Like maybe there's something like the fire and water need from each other that creates kind of a symbiosis.
Yeah, that could be kind of cool, especially with the like they cover each other's weaknesses better. Like maybe they don't combine as well, but they can kind of cover each other's back. That's very cool. I also love the idea that maybe fire and water specifically cooperate well because they end up making steam that they use to industrialize. That could be pretty cool.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that's neat. Well, I think that's enough for a mini episode. If you are listening to us now and you have your own idea of what an interesting monster society would look like and what you want to tell us, let us know on our Twitter, which is @MonsterMPod. We will see you next week. Probably, I think it's going to be xenomorphs next week.
Sounds good to me.
All right, bye.
See you then.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Monster Mechanics. You can find links and show notes at our website, monsterpod.org, or if you'd like to support us, head on over to patreon.com/monsterpod. We can be found on Twitter @MonsterMPod, or you can email us at monstermechanicspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. Monster Mechanics is produced and edited by Scott Paladin. This episode was hosted by Scott Paladin and Zach Jaquays. All of the ideas produced during this podcast are released under a do what the f*** you want public license.